Okay, so we are right at our time. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? We've got 2 or 3 minutes for some Q&A. So her question was, what's been the hardest thing in a male-dominated industry for her to break through?
Being taken seriously. It sounds ridiculous, but I was like excited to turn 30 because I was like, that's a good age, right? And I bought this car that I thought was so, like, it just made me, like, I wanted to fit in any way I could. And so when I pulled into the parking lot, I wanted my car to look like everyone else's. And my husband now tells me it looks like something Cruella de drove. But I think everyone underestimates you all the time, but it's kind of a cool thing to be the underdog and prove that you do know your stuff. You know, I once had a developer tell me that if we won the project, it would be because of the way I looked in my pants. It's hard, but it's also great because you're memorable, right? You know, a guy comes up to you and he's like, I'm Bob, we met 3 years ago. I'm like, did we? Like, no offense, guys, but I think it can be a really cool thing. But yeah, it's certainly not the easiest thing, but.
Thank you. And Deb?
Well, to Bradley's point earlier about learning to say no, dealing with Deb, I think that's a good skill to have, learning to say no. The Nashville Post, it's part of a local company. We have 4 local publications. The Nashville Scene is one that a lot of people have heard more about. The Nashville Post is more specialized. It's subscribers, so you have to pay for it. A lot of your companies probably already pay for it, so you might be able to get it for free. But we cover real estate. We cover the local business community on a pretty micro level. So that's people getting hired to lower level jobs. That's people getting promoted to mid-level jobs. That's CEOs. It's a lot of stuff that you're not going to see in the Tennessean or on TV news, just because it's a little more focused than that. But we also cover politics. We also cover sports. So you can kind of get it all in one place, I think.
Okay, I actually want to ask a question. Sorry, everyone. So we had talked about some of those potential big wins that you see for Nashville over the next 5 years. Are there any other big wins that anybody wants to share about right now? And, what is something that 5 years from now that maybe us here, we're not going to have it on our radar, but that you're really hoping happens here in Nashville?
I'd like to be able to ride a bus or a train around town, personally. I live right off Gallatin, and I think by now, if the 2018 transit referendum had passed, there'd be a light rail under construction on my street, basically. You know, pros and cons to all of that stuff, but it'd be pretty cool to take a train to work.
So we have time for one more question.
Well, I think initially, if I'm just on Google Maps, you guys have already started that whole East Bank, East Side area. It seems like every other river city or every other city that's history is tied to water would have knocked all that out a few years ago. But now what the city's doing and what some of the developers are doing over there, I think is going to make a big difference, and not only to that area, but for the whole city. And one other part about that is, as more and more people are moving in, the type of developments that are happening. When I first moved here, or since I've been here, I feel like I'm starting to see a lot of the same type of buildings, the same type of towers that are like losing some of the architecture that makes development great. As deals become harder, you'll start seeing more creative projects. Since Nashville has grown so quickly, it's been relatively easy for developers over the last 20 years or 10 years. But as it gets harder, whether it's financing or just not being able to find land, you're going to start seeing some of the creative juices flowing with the architects, engineers, developers, and stuff like that, which is going to make the city that much cooler.
Well, thank you all for being here today.